Welcome back, party people. We are going to do the next part of this Let's Play in history. And Stephen really likes meditating with me.
What thoughts clutter your mind, Doctor?
Ever since the Sanctums lost a bit adrift, lost in the cosmic sea in which I've lost my ability to navigate, I've been giving a lot of thought to the direction my life will take if we survive your mother's apocalypse, but who am I if I'm not Sorcerer Supreme?
Sorcerer Supreme or not, you are still an Avenger.
But is that all I am? All I want to be?
Perhaps this is what you should meditate on.
Yes, that's a bright idea. Thank you for still having faith in me even when I've lost faith in myself. You are proving to be a most unexpected friend.
Right. Do-do-do. Leather and mahogany.
Well, you know what they say.
I still say we should have
Let's jack up Spider-Man a little bit.
Sounds relaxing.
Practice makes perfect.
Okay. I think I'm good for now with that.
How's it going, boss?
Now we're going to talk about FDR. We're going to talk about his 3.2 terms as president, and ultimately the end of his life. Damage every enemy. Oh,
How long did you say you were exposed to this thing? It's probably fine.
How may the Sorcerer Supreme assist me? I've crossed paths with this artifact once before.
oh, sweet.
Oh well.
Yes. I think I'm pretty cool with all that. Hmm. Okay. Just gonna edit this real quick. There's a lot. What was that? Bring it on. Okay. There's a lot. My goodness. Okay, I think I'm good with that. Sorry, I just want to make sure my team is it's looking pretty beefy. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, can I ask a favor?
Hunter Hair. What? Okay,
It's a
whatever.
simple question.
Anyways,
Maybe?
Maybe how? Maybe you did see a stolen piece of one-of-a-kind gamma tech at the mysterious creepy lab?
It is possible. We were busy.
Yeah, trying to save our friend. The one you all abandoned.
No, the one we are all trying to save.
now when FDR is president,
And there's Accelerator.
Now,
the
person who sold
unemployment rate's about 26-ish percent. It's like 25.8 or something percent.
theoretically, we could use the
The moment he comes in,
destroy the parchment.
and again, he's a great orator. He's the first president really to use radio to do these addresses to people. So he has such a very calming voice. You know, even my grandpa and my family initially voted Democrat
Resurrected demon,
when,
blood witch,
because most immigrants usually did, to be honest with you. Even around that time, he specifically was.
You never told me that.
He would always tell me how much of a calming presence. He tells me he has such a calming presence on the radio, and what is referred to as like his fireside chats. He would always talk, reassure people, gave him hope, a lot of things like that, and you know, my grandpa, he was born in 1930. He always tell me about just he always had a very unique presence towards him or about himself that endeared him to a lot of people. You know,
like any I felt before.
basically,
No matter what we do,
once he comes in, he installs his first New Deal.
he used to leave the blind.
Just creates everything. Uses the federal government to hire people.
Try explaining that to Auntie
A bunch of groups for conservation, special work stuff.
I will handle Sarah.
Pretty much gave the government to kind of just do whatever the hell they wanted to be honest with you. Pretty much just gave the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, pretty much just free reign to do largely whatever they wanted. They had very broad powers, which is not very good.
We need to go back to the Hydra lab Banner was using. We need
And ultimately, he tried to install a bunch of different acts, different groups. One of them specifically the NIRA, the National Industrial Recovery Act that the Supreme Court blocked, which begins the tumultuous relationship that FDR is going to have with the Supreme Court.
Any of you go back to that lab, especially you. My job is to keep you alive, and that's what I intend to do.
And at this point, you want to talk about presidents who, lead and rule by executive order. No greater example than FDR. My family knows that very well.
I am sorry if I upset you.
All while he's doing this, he's attempting to cut the federal budget. And in doing so, he's doing it through military spending, which a lot of people were like, I don't know about that.
I understand. You were trying to keep
Not to mention, too, which did not endear him to a lot of people at the time, was cutting into veteran benefits. Basically, a lot of people who were widowers of deceased veterans had their pensions and their benefits basically cut.
It seems time is one of our enemies as well now.
Now, the only problem is that, unfortunately, people, the whole mass of people, were indifferent to the realities of life as a veteran and, the spouse of a veteran.
So what did caretaker
Hey, girly.
say to Stark's big plan? Well, out with it. What did caretaker say when you proposed breaking back into Big Bad Banner's lab to retrieve Stark's gamma
accelerator.
yes, that. I cannot imagine it went well. Not well at all.
And again, he's strong. He's strong. His voice is so strong.
Your mind.
So strong, in fact, that
She won't.
people believed him. In fact, I think in the midterm elections in 1934, they were supposed to lose 30 seats, and they actually won 20, which is crazy because people just liked him and they had a vote of confidence. Not to mention, too, the Republican Party is really not doing anything. They're just trying to find their foothold post Herbert Hoover and all that, and more political infighting, to be honest with you.
You can sit there on your high horse and pretend you are innocent.
And instead of trying to,
No, that is not true.
reverse some things because the economy's not doing any better, unemployment's still 25%, he's like, you know what, screw my campaign promises, we're going to actually increase the budget, we're going to create the Social Security Act, specifically for the elderly and the sick. We all know how that's somewhat and largely worked out. Did I retrain with someone? I don't think I did. No, I did.
Time to take it to the next level. We've got plenty of tricks for
I like this one.
no excuses here.
The Great Conundrum. Ooh, oh, dang it. Holy hell.
Let's see him try to handle that.
Haha, nothing's gonna.
See you around.
Let me see if I can finagle some heroes now. Wait, I can't change it now? Oh, never mind, it's just him. Sweet. Okay, I think we're good, people.
Thanks, Hunter.
So what is the next mission? I think it's this one over here. Of course I need to complete a general mission. Defeat Nest Mother. I do have to use Blade. Okay. Booyah. What a team. Such might.
All you have to do is take out that nest mother. Sounds simple enough, right?
There was one book, I forgot who wrote it, but they try to make the case for Roosevelt and his policies, basically saying that his policies were more pragmatic than actually actually. Then led by ideology, which for two reasons is a very weird statement to make, to be honest with you. One is he was basically making the point that, you know, they thought these things through. They thought that this was something that was going to work and that it actually made sense for it to work. The problem is that it is foundationally built on ideology. It is built on a fundamental perspective that government can take care of you, even though it can't. Which people misinterpret. And it really, really irritates me. That, you know, these books just take everything with a grain of salt, people. I'll put it that way. Items do I have?
Exactly what I needed.
Sure, let's do that.
Never seen that before.
Face your end.
Now, after the first term, what had FDR accomplished? Depends on how you want to look at it. There was the smallest marginal improvement. Unemployment went down from like 26% to 23%. Like 8 million people were still unemployed, by the way. And roughly about 2 million people were homeless. So, put that in perspective. Two things persisted. Roosevelt's still popular. They still believe that some of the things that were helping. And, you know, Americans were probably more along the lines of, well, I might be the lucky one that might get these benefits, you know? Which I don't think is the way one should look at it. And again, Republicans were just in complete and utter chaos. They just had no one, man. I think they ended up choosing the governor from Kansas.
Get some. Honor my regards in hell.
Let's do it.
Boom.
That's the
Haha, you can't see me. Aw, crap. That didn't last very long at all. Okay.
not bad. Great. Not bad.
A lot of things are happening too. There's Huey Long, who's becoming a bit of an outspoken Democrat. Another fascinating human being that deserves some attention. He gets assassinated in 1935. Long story short, it's not even a fight. Pretty much it's just as dominant of a landslide victory as one could ever possibly hope.
Still with me?
I mean, I'm pretty sure Landon only gets like 2 or 3 states. He doesn't even win his own state, mind you. Roosevelt wins like 60% of the vote. It's no contest, man. No contest. Goodness. Ugh.
Not a problem.
That will not be enough.
Keep it up. I'm not worried.
Basically, the beginning of his second term is when the fighting against the Supreme Court really happens. Because Bro was pretty peeved that a lot of his policies were not enacted. And actually, a big reason why he ends up doing a lot of things that he did ultimately was to have the Supreme Court overturned and have them basically just do his bidding. So in 1937, he basically tries to get a bunch of the Supreme Court justices out that are old. Tries to like force them out through political machinations. That doesn't work. And then he tries court packing. And basically, they all oppose the bill. People in Congress are like, okay, Roosevelt, people like you. You're a freaking madman. Stop. And you need to chill. Whatever. Does that count? It's changing my hair? No, it doesn't. Okay.
Oh my god, Robbie, why are you so pumped about meeting Blaze? Word on the street is the dude's a major a-hole. Oh, come on. He's the original
Okay, I guess I'm just gonna hang out with Cap.
Famous Hank Pym being your hero.
Who's that?
Sure.
I don't know.
That's the Gold Lounge, Captain.
I'm getting used to the app.
Captain Marvel packing some heat.
I think I'd like it at first.
Boom.
Monks lived here isn't on my list of preferred amenities.
What changed your mind?
It reminds me of a Kree outpost. Mostly solitary, but you have your team around.
civilization to avoid going loopy.
Hmm.
Is it difficult for you to live so remotely?
You kidding? It's great. First, you have a perfect excuse to ditch unwanted social engagements. Second, you can focus on the mission at hand, very few distractions. And third, you know you're going home at the end. What about you? You died here, so I bet you have some complicated thoughts about this place.
So understand, at this point, he has all the power, he has all the influence. Tries to pack the court, does not work. Although, basically, he will end up putting on, I think, 6 or 7 justices, which is just insane. I'm sorry. That's a lot of justices.
You bribing me to think better of you?
What's good?
That felt good. Needed that.
We're gonna need a new training dummy. You ended that one's career.
Sorry to bust up your equipment. Training at night always gets me in the zone.
I'm the same. Night Stalker, all the way. Gives me a chance to let go.
Oh my god, freaking stop talking.
Bub, I don't even know what myself is anymore. Butchers of Weapon X threw my mind into a blender. Wanted to erase the man to unleash the pure beast. They got what they wanted.
Screw it, we're just gonna go down here. Some people will always point out that he wasn't able to implement all the things that he wanted to do as justification for some of his failures, but let's just be honest. If he didn't do it by executive order, he was going to get what he wanted, so he got mostly everything that he wanted. And if anything, people in Congress had largely did everything they could to stop him, you know. And, you know, and in the early part of his second term, the economy bounces back. It goes up to 18% unemployment this time. And then it goes back down like 22 immediately. And then he blamed monopolies. He blamed, you know, corporations, which were a big thing and a big problem. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, he's literally doing everything he can to hurt businesses. And I alluded to this before a couple episodes ago when I was talking about what his New Deal plans ultimately ended up basically just being. Truth in part, they really were very broad, and they were like, we're going to do these things, and these things have to happen, even if it means killing livestock in order to jack up the prices of, even if it means jacking up the prices of cattle or the prices of cattle for farmers, effectively, so that they can make ends meet and money, and or maintaining a price that's cheap for people and consumers and whatnot. Like, they did so many things that people have zero idea about. Unfortunately, my brain doesn't work right now, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But things like that's just a broad brush, you know, simplistic in its ideals. It's like, we need to regulate the dollars to curb inflation. Okay, stop printing money. But then, you know, immediately it's like, oh, now we have deflation, and, you know, it's not helping that, but then print more money. Well, now we have inflation. And it's like, he just does things like that during his entire time with all these New Deal proposals that just continue to hurt people over and over and over and over again. And his health is deteriorating a little by little every day with the stress of the presidency. And it's like, it's just not good. It's not conducive, really. And this leads me to believe that, oh man, this leads me to believe that he didn't care. He was such a firm believer. He didn't believe that he could even be wrong. That's how right he thought he was. That's how correct he thought he was. Okay, let's just continue this. I want to get to the next part really badly now.
Then sleep.
going to be an early morning.
I don't know what it is with you and coffins.
Charles has been trying to help me put the pieces back ever since.
Why do I have to talk to him again?
Remember it all.
A vampire fed on my mother during my birth. For whatever reason, her face at that moment was burning.
Yeah, I'm not talking to him. I'm going to bed. Hunter boy needs some sleep, people. I will tell you this, believe what you guys want to believe in terms of raw numbers, economic rates. I think people were lying about the economic rates and unemployment rates and homelessness rates back then to try and curb and make it seem a little bit less bad, if that makes any sense. Because everyone's unemployment rates for that time are completely all over the place. And some people use some people's, numbers. Like, some people even had the unemployment rate at like 10% in 1936, and I'm just like, that doesn't square with the reality and the historical realities of what was even going on at that time. Not at all.
Not as much. Always thought Xavier's wasn't the best place for her. Going from the Queen of Hell to the new kid in school wasn't easy.
Queen of Limbo.
Yeah, whatever. Smells like the devil's prostate. It's hell enough for me.
Leather mahogany.
We're doing this again. No question.
Cap wants to have a word. Oop.
Hey, can I ask a favor? Thanks, Hunter.
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, do.
Next level.
No, not doing that.
Something for everyone.
Let's heal Tony.
A successful collaboration. Hey, Hunter. This should be quick. Got some upgrades for you, hot off the press. Or forge.
I should probably also point out, too, his foreign policy, which, again, is all over the place. But he basically just throws his, dick around, for the most part, trying to do whatever he wants. And, even in a wheelchair, he's like, I got it, bro. Like, you can't stop me, son.
So, does someone want to tell me what we're doing here?
We have a plan, Robbie. We just need you to wear something.
Wear what? We'll get to that.
He's really into protecting.
What kind of statement is that? Relaxed.
Good lord. Sorry, guys, I had to sneeze. He's really into protecting Latin America, making good relations with Europe, especially in the early goings of World War II.
How am I supposed to summon Johnny Blaze? I don't summon. Summoning is not my thing. Hunter, did you hear this?
I did.
And for the most part, he has such a sphere of influence
Be honest with me.
and really tries to
Right person to
help other countries that are doing just as bad during the Great Depression.
Worried about your place on the team, Russ.
A lot of things going on here.
How capable you are.
When the time came to prove myself, I'd get a little
I don't think he and Winston Churchill got along very well, especially in the early going. But regardless, around this time too, he's going to be running for his third term, which is unprecedented at the time because George Washington had established the two-term, I guess, uncodified rule because it wasn't enshrined in the Constitution at that point. It would be once Roosevelt passes.
So, you want me to do what? Johnny plays a call? On my Spirit of Vengeance cell phone?
Yeah, that's the general idea.
Now this time though, people were very wary for two reasons. One, because no one had actually run for a third term successfully, mind you. And a lot of people saw it as a power grab, which is why in the 1940 election, he loses like 10 states because of that. Really big and unfortunate for him. Still wins pretty decisively. And again, also because Wendell Willkie, I think, who was a Republican nominee, not very popular. Not very popular at all. But the popular vote was far closer than I think even Roosevelt would have liked or wanted.
Gee whiz, you think?
You cannot flee destiny. You cannot hide from me.
Or Lilith, it would seem.
We must go now, Hunter. The parchment of power must not be allowed to fall.
Got this.
Now, by his third term, the economic factors were improving, primarily and specifically because people were working, because we were giving out and making ammunition for Europe during World War II. A lot of ammunition. Yeah. Put it in camp.
I never thought I'd be hunting Johnny Blaze.
Really? Hunting's all I
So by the end of, or by the beginning of his third term, he ends up lowering the economy and unemployment rate to closer to 10%. People are working. People are much happier. They're out of the war. They don't have to deal with that nonsense of Europe. A lot of things are happening as well too. Lend-Lease. Because understand, we were pretty neutral at that point. We definitely weren't on the side of the Nazis, or the communists in Russia or anything like that. But I do believe we just wanted to be neutral, isolationist, and I think that was the most popular thing to do. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have had a much more successful re-election bid. Also, a little tidbit, by the way. He knew Pearl Harbor was going to happen. Then I think it was, at this point, pretty definitive. He knew what was going to happen. And he let it happen. He got word previously a couple days before. Didn't really say anything, and then the attack actually happens, and next thing you know... No bueno. They made a movie about Midway a couple years ago that hints at it. Doesn't outright say it. Because I think that conversation with Patrick Wilson's character with the Japanese leader goes a little differently. And but they had an inkling around that time that an attack was going to happen on Pearl Harbor. In which case, shame on you, Roosevelt. Sure, we saved the free world, etc., and all that, but shame on you. Anyways, and people to this day will still argue that it's a conspiracy theory, that he knew their plans and whatnot. Well, how about the fact that, it was hidden for quite a long time and people don't remember at all to this day that there were also Japanese submarines off the coast of California, which was one of the significant things that actually led to Roosevelt being able to lock up my my family, basically, in internment camps. Oh, but no one wants to talk about that. No. It's not very politically correct to talk about that. It's all lies. Can't believe everything that they tell you, you know. I can't attack? Oh, wait. There we go. And that's my problem, because a lot of these things that are happening, deny it or not, the truth is not going to be kind to a lot of people.
You were too weak for this fight.
Honesty is the best medicine, in my personal view. So pretty early on, he meets with Churchill. They basically combine their chiefs of staff. Eisenhower, although I don't think it happens immediately, but Eisenhower is going to be a big person to this. They start the nuclear program. Most people know about World War II. And then Germany invades Russia. We invade Normandy. D-Day. And, you know, the Yalta Conference with him and Stalin and all that. I mean, everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. His health continues to just completely fail. Starts making attempts, sending these troops to war. Yeah. A lot of things are happening at this particular point in time.
Then let us send them home quickly. They haven't changed their minds yet.
I was not expecting that. Okay. Whoa.
Impressed.
Ah, dang it. Hmm. There we go. That'll work.
Power of the light.
My will be done.
My goodness. Now, the election of 1844, I'm just going to get straight to it because there's a lot of things with Roosevelt that I don't care to talk about. In terms of Japanese, other different things that were happening around that time too, that it's just a lot of things to talk about. Basically, he didn't he wanted to become president again. What the hell is this?
Said I'm coming after me.
Remember to keep an eye on those altars. The Nest Mother channels Lilith through them.
That won't be enough to save her.
Can I kill him? Just about. But long story short, Republicans nominated Thomas Dewey, governor of New York. He's kind of like this weird liberal in the Republican Party that was at this point pretty just generally moderate. Suck it, lady. But he was basically a shell of himself. Ends up getting a stroke while with his mistress, basically. Like, I'm sorry, oh crap. You know, messed up.
I must be doing something right.
But he wins re-election. Democrats didn't want to have him because it was going to create constitutional crisis, whole bunch of different things. Partially a reason why they got Harry Truman in, because he was unopinionated and they thought that they could control him. So that's why he ends up being his vice president, even though Roosevelt's kind of just indifferent to him. And then basically goes back to the Alta Conference one last time. Ends up
Hold that thought. Soulless bastards must smell the damn thing on me.
ends up basically dying of a hemorrhage in 1945, sometime in April.
Good question. But right now I gotta.
And then, yeah, America wins the war eventually, yada yada yada.
You want this?
That's basically FDR in a nutshell. A garbage human being, a man who did everything he could for power, influence, and I think he just wanted to be remembered. I think the problem with some of these people is sometimes you might not be remembered for the things that are always going to be positive. That's just the truth. If you use a card to defeat a Solus, the card will be refunded. Okay, so I just have to survive. This is different. Who's weak?
Goading him into reading from the Darkhold was not what we were hoping for.
Speak for yourself.
Feel my call.
Who needs health? We all kind of do.
Behold the light's gift.
I am empowered.
Let's settle this. They cannot possibly match your strength.
It's not what I want, people. Give me what I want.
Hope they're ready. That's the stuff.
we're gonna finish this and probably end this part. Oh god, I hope I survive. I have no idea how disastrous this is gonna go. It looks like they're all gonna be able to attack. Cap's probably just gonna be dead. He's gonna be taking the brunt of all this. But honestly, not a good president. I think if we're just gonna be completely honest, if he was alive today and tried to do his presidency today, he would be considered an unapologetic tyrant and monster. I think that's very fair to say. People, especially today, would be very, very wary of this man.
The soulless may not be powerful, but they have the numbers to overwhelm you. Don't get cocky.
As if the Lilin were not enough. Now we face the servants of another evil.
Come at me, bro.
They're not going to like this.
I think I'm gonna hit my hunter character. I think we're good. Holy hell.
I would have guessed you were aligned with Lilith. Once again, Lilith's servants fall.
I'm gonna heal Cap because everyone's gonna be trying to kill Cap. Yay, level up, people.
It's all coming back to me.
Boom. Gotta love Captain America. That's my boy.
Still time to run away. You better get going. That's some move. I can only imagine what sins they were guilty of to deserve that. Your fate is sealed.
I think my guys might be a little bit overpowered for this.
Return to your mother.
Beautiful.
Wow, I'm glad you're on our side. Nice work.
That's all you got. Ah, this game is fun. I like this part. Willpower +5. Okay.
This creature's barely worth our time.
Then you should have no trouble dispatching them, and quickly.
You were unprepared. Pathetic.
Watch this.
Time to finish.
I'm telling you, the Cap can be just so freaking overpowered, man.
You're never too old to improve.
Like, it's just not even funny anymore. It's just depressing.
This shall be of great help.
Probably overkill.
Leave some for the rest of us.
Let us punch you into this. How many turns?
So moved like that was centuries ago.
Yay, let's do this.
Someone order a sandwich? I'll make good use of this.
You may be reaching the end of their onslaught, but don't relax just yet.
I was just starting to enjoy myself.
Target confirmed.
Are you guys enjoying this game? I'm really enjoying this game. Probably a little too much, to be honest, but yeah. What does Spang do? Bam! That's what Spang does.
Is that the best you've got?
Now, I'll be fair. I can see how this part would be very, very difficult. Because you can easily get overwhelmed on much harder difficulties, or if you're not actually progressed enough.
Here we go.
That'll work.
Can I move? Yeah, let's do that.
Accept fate. The fire burns brighter still.
You know, probably Mr. Reyes can get it. Oh, we did it.
Second there, I thought I saw a muscle car.
That was way easier than I thought it was going to be.
For now.
But seriously, are you guys enjoying this game? I like to play things y'all like too, more than just myself. Man, Johnny Blaze is so cool.
I'll be in touch.
What? The guy
Hey, I'll give Robbie credit. He knows what's up. This game story is kind of all over the place. I still kind of have no idea what I'm doing, to be honest with you.
Hey, Hunter, when you get a chance, could you meet me at the chapel?
Let's go talk to our girl. Hey, sister, what's going on?
Are you just...
You wanted to see me?
You won't believe this, but we did it.
Did what?
Remember that first account of Lilith corruption I found in the Book of
I probably should talk a little bit about Harry Truman while I'm actually still playing. Harry's a very complicated person and a very complicated president.
You mean the story of the ancient pharaoh who was struck down with...
It's also funny too because I don't know if a lot of people have actually heard him talk because he's from Missouri, and it's just funny because hearing him talk, he has such a very strong southern accent, you know. He's like, "Welcome to I am the president of the United States."
Pretty sure
If anyone's seen that Oppenheimer movie, I think Gary Oldman plays him for the brief scene when Oppenheimer meets with Harry Truman. Which, if I'm gonna be honest, I feel like I think that scene's pretty accurate to the reality of what actually happened.
how so?
But Truman, like, and I think he's a little more exaggerated, but it's kind of like, I get it. I mean, every time Harry Truman speaks and I hear him do like addresses and stuff like that, it is very, very distinct, very just like southern Savannah, like, do y'all know what I'm saying here? That the Constitution of these United States, so, like, it's just funny.
You will surely fall.
Very brave man. Not the brightest. I think he's measured. He's certainly someone who I think might not be intelligent, but has some stronger political instincts, and I think is a determined and I guess I don't want to say righteous. That's not the right way to put it, but certainly someone who I think is a lot more,
When is this happening?
like, if he makes a mistake, I think he's far more willing to admit the mistake than anything else. And the reason why Harry Truman is so remembered and revered is for two reasons. Is because a lot of the things that happened post World War II, the Korean War, post-economic everything, just the New World Order, a lot of it starts really with him. And it's just interesting how he goes along with it and how he acts with it. Number two, he is the only human being to authorize the dropping of nuclear weapons on a group of people. My Japanese people.
Because it just might. Remember to study your lines, Hunter, because you do not.
Man, these are gonna be very long parts. Ugh. But I usually like to end it by going to bed. That's just me.
Hunter,
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he is the only president to actually fight in World War One too. World War One as well, by the way. Pretty brave dude, not gonna lie. I think he ends up getting the rank of a colonel at some point. Because I know he used to be part of the Guard, and then he becomes part of the Army, goes to the Western Front, artillery, just brave. This guy's got some balls on him, I'll put it that way. Which just, that's just how he is, you know. He's just a complicated person. And he's a complicated person because he's one that I actually go back and forth on. There are days where I'm just like, I don't like this guy. And then there are days where I'm like, God, you know, there's something about him that lends me to like him a little bit more. That tends to make me, at the very least, understand him more. And I can see his clear line of thinking and path instead of just the overwhelming levels of narcissism and just entitlement and wrong self-righteous belief that Roosevelt had largely attuned himself to. Because I don't think he was like a progressive. I don't think he was a conservative. I just think he just did what he thought was right for the people, and he was always going to have some opposition with the conservative Democrats, conservative Republicans, etc., etc. Which is funny because I think people need to understand that as well. That you know, the parties weren't so strongly aligned to just one particular ideology or another, you know. Like today, it's just, if you're a liberal, you're a Democrat. If you're a conservative, you're a Republican or libertarian, you know? Like, it's basically just this weird, clear dichotomy instead of people just... And in some ways it's good, in a lot of ways it's bad. You know, in some ways it's good because now every single state has a little liberal, a little Democrat, and you can probably figure out who's going to win each state depending on the people there for the most part, but it also doesn't really help because now it just creates even more aggressive levels of party lines, and now there's no middle ground in any way, shape, and form that's going to help anyone. It's not a good situation to be in today. Like, regardless if you like or dislike Mr. Donald Trump, there is a foundational and fundamental reason why he is the leading nominee now. There's a fundamental reason why he won in 2016. And there's a fundamental reason why, let's just say, 2020 was a very contested election. You know, there are reasons for these things. And I'm just pointing them out that you have to at least ask why these things are happening and not be so inclined to say racism, etc., etc. These people are dumb. There are fundamental reasons at their core that go beyond even just the surface level stuff that people need to understand. Like, there's a reason why the Teamsters union leader went to the Republican National Convention, even though Democrats are quote-unquote the party of the working class and stuff like that, which they really haven't been since Biden sided against the railroad unions. I'm just saying. You can't really make that claim anymore when the biggest union in the United States was screwed over by your Democrat president. Just pointing that out. People need to understand things. Things are very, very finicky, very tricky. And I think if things don't make sense in the past, there are reasons because you're being told lies and you need to figure out why that is. And you need to figure out, you know, using logic, using deductive reasoning, using the time and era that they were born in, how things ultimately end up shaking out. I think you'll get a much more positive, accurate, and fair assessment of history, because you have to understand, most people like us today were like us back then, you know? That is the truth. You know, we're not so different from our ancestors. We just live very different lives, but we're all human beings who still bleed blood. You know? It's not like people didn't have, you know, lactose intolerance or, you know, allergies to various different things back then, and that's just the truth. I mean, truth is, like, you might have some of the most liberal, woke, crazy, left-wing people on the face of the earth now than ever before, but you also on the people on the complete opposite level of the ideological spectrum are going to have probably some of the most conservative, cutthroat, right-wing, let's just basically destroy the federal government and have, by definition, anarchy, where we govern ourselves, basically. But there are reasons for that, and I think people just need to understand those reasons and be honest about those reasons. And once you are honest with yourself about that, then I think you have a better understanding of how things are, how life really is, and I think you're going to be much more inclined to look at the world very differently. Because I didn't always think like this. I always, when I was growing up, my family, I was always questioning things because my parents are ideologically on the opposite sides of the spectrum. So I got a little bit of both. But I was always probably someone who was always growing up pretty liberal, I was never a big fan of Bush growing up. I was probably indifferent to Obama. I always liked Ron Paul because he always explained things, and then as I kept growing, got older, I was like, oh, okay, so this is how things are. And it also helped that I like history, and I was just like, wow, all these things are happening, yada yada, and I just came to a conclusion one day where I was like, oh, I forgot what it was. But I think it was when Trump won, and I was just like, how did this happen, How did this happen? And it just led me to believe, like, there's something very, very weird going on that I need to figure out. Anyways, guys, like and subscribe. We'll continue this part very soon and finish talking about Harry Truman. God bless, y'all rock.